But Mexico's been hit with two wild stories this week, and people can't decide which one's the distraction. On one hand, President Claudia Sheinbaum got groped in public. On the other, a sitting mayor got murdered by the cartels.
Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Bars or Belly Dirt Stranad. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload videos, you will be the first person to be notified. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So lovelies, I'm gonna be your today's host, and I have so many statistics to put up here, and we are gonna come up to talk about it. Alright lovelies, let's dive into today's video.
So here's what went down. Sheinbaum's walking through downtown Mexico, shaking hands, talking to people, doing that I'm one of you type of things. When some random dude gets too close, tries to kiss her, and straight up gropes her. You can see it in her face. She's trying to keep composure in front of the cameras. She even tells the dude, let's take a picture. But she later filed charges. And honestly, she should. It doesn't matter if you're the president or a street vendor. That's harassment. But to me, it's wild that the president of Mexico is that exposed to the public right now. Cartel hits are ramping up, politicians are being targeted, and she's out here walking through crowds like it's a campaign parade. I don't know about you, but I'll be questioning my security team if a random drunk dude is able to come and grab me from behind. Now, there are some people putting their tinfoil hats on and arguing that this whole Sheinbaum story is being used to cover up the Manson assassination and just move on from that story. If that's true, then that's a very fucked up thing to use as a cover-up and a slap in the face to women who face this every day. What are your thoughts on that? Right now, there's no real sense of safety in Mexico. Not for mayors, not even for the president. And if the people running the country aren't safe, what does that say about everyone else? Mexico's been hit with two wild stories this week, and
This is Men Feel Entitled to Women's Bodies, part 3521. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum was walking with her team and obviously with cameras as they captured this scene. And this man came up behind her, kissed her on the neck, and then went to grab her breasts. She has pressed charges saying, if this is happening to me as the president, what's happening to young women in Mexico? And I want to just be clear that this isn't just a thing that's happening in Mexico. The first time that I was groped in public was when I was 13. I was at school and a classmate of mine he was walking by me and he reached out and grabbed my breast. I was just going to class and that's what happened. It also happened to me when I was in Vietnam. I was walking down the road and a guy on a motorbike slowed down as he passed me by so he could reach out and grab my breast before laughing and moving on. As a sexual harassment researcher, I feel it's my duty to remind you all that these acts are not about sexuality or sex. These acts are about power, about putting women in our place. These are not come-ons, they are put-downs. And as long as men like this are not all menning all over the internet, instead of actually doing something to stop men's violence against women, it will continue. As a quick reminder, even though that guy seems to think there's a simple binary here, that there's good guys and evil guys, in reality what we have is a spectrum of truly evil people doing terrible, terrible things, predators doing terrible things that we see and hear about more commonly, the men who tacitly at least support that predation, men who think some women at least deserve it, men who think it's terrible, but this is just, we're going to have to put up with that behavior, well-meaning men who underestimate the issue, and then the few men who will actually intervene. With the exception of the men all the way on the far left, men on the rest of the spectrum are all, to varying degrees, part of the problem.
Just out and about in the streets. Imagine what the experience is of women who don't have the power or cultural capital that she has. Imagine what their experiences are like on a daily basis. The video is really disturbing because it makes you realize that even the most protected women, the most powerful women can still have such horrific experiences. And I think the obvious extrapolation is that if that's their experience, there is a lot of other things happening on a daily basis that other women are experiencing and isn't getting attention. If the Mexican president can...
Latinos for Trump keep dropping like flies. This is Roberto Mosquera. See what I did there? A Cuban immigrant who is a self-proclaimed super Trump supporter who was recently deported not to Cuba, but to Africa. Check out this video.
man who immigrated to the U.S. from Cuba when he was 9, is on a hunger strike while in Africa, hoping to get the attention of the man he once supported.
He was very pro-Trump, super Trump supporter.
Monica Mosquera's dad was taken by ICE
A couple days before Father's Day.
Her father, Roberto, went for an annual check-in with immigration agents back in June and was taken into custody. But instead of being deported to his native Cuba, the 58-year-old is one of at least 5 men sent to a maximum security prison in the Kingdom of Eswatini over the summer, a small country in Africa criticized for alleged human rights abuses.
You know it's bad when even Cuba doesn't want you. Cuba was like, nah, we don't want him either. And once again, this is to all Latino for Trump supporters. They do not care about you. You will never be accepted by them. You are expendable to them. But then again, you play silly games, you get silly prizes. But anyways, let me know what you guys think.
Hey, why is this dude grabbing the Presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico like that? She needs a new bodyguard. I volunteer to be her bodyguard. This man has her wrist fully cuffed and he's squeezing, he's putting pressure. And this is not by accident. The fact that he's still holding on to her hand. She tries to rip away and she can't because he's still grasping. And not only that, but after she's able to break free from his disgusting grip, he grabs the other. Anybody that understands body language clearly understands that this is a violation for the president of Mexico. Him to hold her like a child and smile at the camera in confidence. And obviously she's like very uncomfortable in the situation. And not only this, he proceeds to grab the other forearm and nobody tackled this man. This is why she needs a new bodyguard team, because look what Justin Trudeau is doing to Putin right here, putting his hand on his chest, and Putin's bodyguard was about to come annihilate this infringement, but Putin stretches out his hand and stops. She was clearly not comfortable in this situation and nobody came to her aid. This is the governor of Durango and she clearly needs a strong bodyguard team to protect her at all costs. Okay, why is this dude grabbing the Presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico like that? She needs a new bodyguard. I volunteer to be her bodyguard. This man has her wrist fully cuffed.
Kissed and seemingly groped.
This is Claudia Sheinbaum, and she's Mexico's first female president. And this guy just came up to her and decided to show her what women go through every day. During an event, while greeting supporters, a random guy walks up to her and just gropes her in public. First of all, imagine thinking that's a good idea. And second of all, imagine doing that to the president of the country. A quick side note, her security detail was lacking because what the heck? How the heck did you let some random guy run up on the president like that? And it's not gonna end there. Claudia Sheinbaum is pressing charges against that guy. She said that what happened to her happens to women everywhere. And it's about time that the most powerful women stop pretending that it's just part of the job. Now, this might sound small because it's one person, it's a moment, but in a country where 10 women a day are victims to femicide, it's a big deal. Honestly, it says a lot that the president has to file a report just to be treated like any other woman demanding justice. Because when even the president isn't safe, what does that say about everyone else? Follow to hear stories that most don't talk about.
Claudia Sheinbaum.
¿Realmente les importa Uruapan? ¿Realmente les importa Michoacán? ¿Realmente les importa la familia? No, lo que les importa es usar esto para sus propios beneficios.
Every day I am more and more disappointed with the president of Mexico. The way she just disregards things and sweeps things under the rug, I'm honestly starting to get sick of it. And she's now starting to do the same thing that MAGA does, blame the other side. Like, bro, you're the one that's in charge. You're the president. Granted, she has only been in office for about a year, but there are definitely some things that she needs to put the pedal to the metal on and prioritize. Don't get me wrong, I think she's helped a lot of people, especially elderly people, workers, students, but a lot of times she just seems so tone deaf and just disregards the problems that we have in Mexico. And this is coming from somebody who voted for her. And every day it's just more and more of the same. Oh, we're going to open up an investigation, apathetic responses. Like, bro, this is not what we want to hear. This is not what we want to see. But there you have it, guys. Coming from somebody who voted for Claudia. Every day she keeps disappointing me and letting me down even more. But anyways, let me know what you guys think.
There's international outrage today after the president of Mexico was groped by a random man while out on the street greeting citizens. And she's not alone. The story is resonating across America. 81% of women say they've experienced sexual harassment. Ann Mercogliano spoke with a safety expert about what to do if it happens to you.
There is international uproar today after the president of Mexico was groped in public. He got right up on her.
And this happens in crowds for women all the time.
Mexico's Claudia Sheinbaum is a high-profile victim of groping. So is Taylor Swift. Remember how she testified against a DJ who groped her during this photo session in 2013. He denied he did anything inappropriate.
I didn't do what they accused me of doing. My hand was never under her skirt.
Each day, thousands of women suffer the silent indignity of getting groped in public.
A groper may be lurking any place where there are crowds, like concerts, movie theaters, shopping malls, even public transportation like the New York City subway.
Just how bad is the problem? Today, Inside Edition conducted a spot survey. More than 100 women filled out our questionnaire. To the top question, have you ever been groped or inappropriately touched on the subway? A disturbing 19% answered yes. But only 2 reported the incident to the police.
And no one steps up and even says anything because it's so common. It's upsetting that you have to constantly look over your shoulder.
I've had my butt grabbed. Just pinched.
Former NYPD detective David Sarney showed me what to do when a creep comes along.
If you're a groper, Dave, how do I protect myself?
Bring your bag over. So this way it's harder to grab.
Okay.
So you want to make sure you're distracted and make sure your bag is closed, obviously. But you want to make sure there's nowhere that he can touch you. And if that happens, if he's still grabbing you, yell.
What do I yell? Help?
Help. Don't touch me. Get away from me.
Necessary tips that could foil a groper.
There's international outrage today after the
Let's be honest, what is happening in Mexico right now feels like a snapshot of a country that is standing at the edge of 2 cliffs. On one side, you have a president who just publicly violated in front of cameras. On the other side, you have a mayor brutally kicked the bucket by cartels. And the sad part is, people are arguing about which story is the distraction, instead of realizing both are symptoms of the same disease. A nation where power doesn't guarantee safety and leadership no longer guarantee respect. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The fact that the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, could be groped in public during a walk through downtown tells me one thing. The idea of security in Mexico is more illusion than reality. How does a random man even get that close to the sitting president of a country where cartels run entire cities like private kingdoms? If that man wasn't just a drunk or crazy fan, that could have been an assassination attempt. The question that bothers me is, where was her protection detail? How did they let that happen? Because it's not just embarrassing, it's dangerous, and it exposes something deeper about how Mexico handles authority and power. See, people love to say she's one of the people. She works with them. I get it, the political optics. It makes her look relatable, but there is a difference between being relatable and being reckless. You don't prove you are one of the people by putting yourself in position where your security team can't even react fast enough to protect you. And this isn't about gender, it's about common sense in leadership during a time where cartel violence is not just active, it's expanding. Let's shift to the other story. The mayor who kicked the bucket, a public servant elected to lead community, gunned down by cartel members. You can't separate that from the Sheinbaum incident. They are 2 sides of the same coin. One story exposes the lack of respect for authority, and the other exposes the total loss of control in governance. Politicians are dying in Mexico at an alarming rate. It became normal for mayors, police chiefs, journalists, even candidates to be killed to kick the bucket in broad daylight. When that becomes normal, you know you are not living in a democracy anymore. You are living in a managed chaos where fear has replaced law. So when I look at these 2 stories, I don't see distraction, I see decal. I see a country where violence and vulnerability coexist at the highest levels. You can't say protect women when even the president, the most powerful woman in the country, can be touched without concepts in front of cameras. And you can't say protect public servants when a mayor can be executed for simply doing his job. It's not about which story matters more. They both exposes the same truth. Mexico is bleeding from the inside. Now, here are people online who believe Sheinbaum's harassment story was staged or amplified to distract the public from the assassination story. That is the conspiracy side of it, that the government or the media wants to shift the narrative away from cartel violence and towards sympathy for the president. But honestly, even if that were true, it only shows how deep the distrust runs between the people and their government. When your citizens automatically assume every strategy or headline is a political tool, that is a sign that the social media contract has been broken.
That is not conspiracy thinking, that is survival thinking in a system that failed to earn the people's trust. Let's talk about symbolism. The president experienced being touched, groped, violated in a public space. That is symbolic of how Mexico itself is being violated daily. Violated by corruption, violated by criminal networks, violated by the same culture of impunity that lets mayors get executed and journalists silenced. And what does the government do? It reacts with outrage for a week, then moves on to the next crisis. That is the circle. That is the pattern. The outrage is temporal, but the rot is permanent. Now, if we strip the emotion out and just look at it logically, how can Mexico claim stability when its top leaders can't even walk down a street safely? If this was the US president, the British prime minister, or even the French president, that kind of breach would trigger a complete overhaul of security protocols. But in Mexico, it becomes a trending moment, a few hashtags, a video that goes viral, and then business as usual. That is how numb the country has become to chaos. Disaster has become entertainment. What is worse is how the media handles it. The focus is on the drama, the video clip, the crowd reaction, the debate over distraction, instead of the bigger conversation about how fragile Mexico's government really is. Because here is the truth: Sheinbaum might have power on paper, but in reality, the cartels still run the ground. Every decision, every policy, every police operation, it all runs through the shadow of cartel influence. They own territories, bribe officers, infiltrate politics, and even influence elections. You can't talk about democracy when parallel governments exist with more guns, more loyalty, and more money than the official one. And I know some people will say, well, at least Sheinbaum filed charges. Sure, but charges mean nothing if there is no consistent enforcement. How many women in Mexico file charges and get justice? The problem isn't that she filed, is that millions of women before her did too, and nothing changed. Her case will only matter if it leads to structural changes in how Mexico treats sexual harassment and personal security. Otherwise, it's just another headline that fades away. Let's be real, both these stories expose the heritage of safety in Mexico. The rich and powerful are supposed to be protected, the ordinary citizens are left to fend for themselves. But now, even the powerful hasn't safe. That is when a country crosses into true instability. Because if the top isn't protected, the entire system underneath collapses. There's also a cultural element here that people don't like to talk about: machismo. Mexico has a deeply ingrained culture of male dominance, where power and respect are often tied to aggression and control. The man who groped Sheinbaum didn't just disrespect her as a woman, he disrespected the presidency. That kind of art is a reflection of how normalized harassment and lack of boundaries have become. It's not just a criminal act, it's a cultural rot showing its face in the highest office. Until that changes, no amount of security reform will fix it. And let's be honest, Mexico has been trying to play the image game for too long, trying to look model, democratic, and safe on the global stage, while underneath it's rotting from corruption and fear. This week's event tore off that marks. You can't project strength abroad when your own mayors are being executed and your president is physically violated in public. That is not optics, that is exposure. What scares me most isn't the incident itself, it's the normalization, the way people just move on, the way stories like this fed into memes, jokes, or quick political arguments. That is what happens when trauma becomes a background noise. It's the slow death of outrage. And when outrage dies, accountability dies with it. So what should people really take away from this week in Mexico? Simple. If even the most powerful people in the country hasn't safe, then no one is. Not journalists, no politicians, no civilians. The country is living in a permanent state of risks, and the government is either unable or unwilling to fix it. Whether it's distraction or coincidence, both events scream the same message: Mexico needs a reset, not just a reaction. And I will end this with these thoughts with a hard truth. When citizens stop believing their leaders can protect them, and when leaders stop believing they can protect themselves, that is not governance anymore. That is survival mode. And Mexico right now is living in survival mode, politically, socially, and morally. It's not about one president or one mayor or 1 week of chaos. It's about a system that has allowed fear and corruption to become normal. That is the real crisis, not the distraction, the decal.
And if you watched up to this extent, don't forget to please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. So lovelies, why not just share your thought? Subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.